Greetings, Realm Lords, Core Bricks here, and today we're going to be looking at the next hero in my massive LEGO war game. This is the third hero that the Cusped Kingdom can get, and I am of course talking about Lord Lysander Ursau. Like the Bear Knights from my last video, Lysander is also based on Sir Santis from the Knights Kingdom 2 LEGO sets, except Lysander is based on the second wave of Sir Santis. So he looks a little bit fancier, a little bit more appropriate for what a hero should look like. He's all around very similar to his Bear Knights, except he both can be hit harder and hits a lot harder. So let's take a look at his stats to show you what I mean. Like our Bear Knights, I don't have any prints on Lysander's body, but again, that doesn't matter because we're gonna cover it up with this red steel breastplate anyway. This breastplate has the crest of the Ursaus on it, and it blocks 6 elemental armor. In addition to that, he has a red steel helmet that blocks 6 shredding armor, and a red steel shield that blocks 9 slashing armor, once again decorated with his family's crest. This is essentially the same armor as our Bear Knights, but it's a little bit beefier and it's paired up with a defense of 8, making Lord Lysander a pretty resilient unit on the battlefield. Offensively, he's notably different from his Bear Knights because he doesn't have a sword, instead he has a red steel mace. And this deals 6 bludgeoning damage. And his base attack is notably higher than the Bear Knights. His base attack is a whopping 10, meaning that he's a devastating heavy hitter that can hit up to 16 damage with his default weaponry. Unfortunately, his precision rating of 8 means that he's not very likely to crit, and at night you're better off using a different hero altogether. Like his Bear Knights, he has a movement of 3, but unlike them, since he is a hero, he has a much higher health. Let's count it up on the board here. This gives him 35 health, which is about the highest it can get for a hero. There are only a couple heroes that have more than 35 health in all of the Circle of Realms. When it comes to Lysander's backstory, well, he is one of the noble Ursaus. Lysander is the head of the Ursau family at this point in the Circle of Realms, and he's a bit of a brutal guy. Lysander grew up in Eagle's Perch, which is the capital of the Cusped Kingdom, alongside Prince Jalen and some of the other heroes that we'll see in later videos. Except unlike the prince, he grew up there as a royal ward. And these are people who were sent to the capital and raised there, basically to operate as an insurance policy against their family going rogue against the kingdom. This means that any time in his upbringing, if the Ursaus were causing trouble for the crown, then King Matteo could have had him killed. But I doubt Lysander would want me dwelling on the negatives of his past like that. And so let's talk about why he became such a fierce fighter. Well, when he arrived at Eagle's Perch, he was the youngest of the wards, which meant that by default he was an easy target for bullying and ridicule. But Lysander figured out at a very early age that the way to overcome that is to overcome those around him. And so Lysander strived to be second to none in any physical challenge that came up. He basically embraced this hyper-masculine idea of what a nobleman is supposed to be in the kingdom. And so fast forward to today, and he's one of the strongest people in the Cusped Kingdom, if not the strongest fighter. If this were the Trojan War, he'd be like the Ajax of the kingdom. And so what does this mean for you when you're controlling him in the Circle of Realms? Lysander is very similar to his Bear Knights. In fact, most of his abilities and special attacks are identical. Like the Bear Knights, he has fire resistance. Like the Bear Knights, he has a Visage of the Bear. And like the Bear Knights, he can hurl things at enemy units. Oh! The only thing he can't do that the Bear Knights can is he can't upgrade his shield, because as a Wave 2 Knights Kingdom character, he has a kite shield instead of a square shield, so this can't be upgraded with shield mods. So I know what you're saying over there. You're like, Lysander is just a stronger version of the Bear Knight. That's nice to have, but maybe a little boring. Well, he does have one more special attack that sets him apart from the Bear Knights, makes him a little bit more interesting. And so let's imagine he's on the roof of this temple like the Bear Knights were in the last video. But instead of having one enemy next to him, he's got 2 enemies that he has to deal with. Now, like our Bear Knights, he can hurl something on the ground at his enemy, but Lysander is substantially stronger than the Bear Knights. So why hurl an object at the enemy when you can hurl the enemy at the enemy? And that's where Lysander's Mighty Hurl special attack comes into play. Mighty Hurl can be done against any infantry unit that's adjacent to Lysander, and basically how it works is you roll the 4-sided die, and you move that unit whatever number you roll away from Lysander. You can choose what space the unit lands on, and if they land on non-hazardous terrain, then they're going to take blunt damage just like they would if Lysander had hurled an object at them. Now, this is a particularly fun ability because there's all sorts of cool things you can do with the hurl. You can, for example, hurl one enemy unit into another enemy unit. If you do that, then they both take the damage. Or if you're standing next to lava, for example, you can hurl a unit into the lava, and if they don't have fire resistance, they're gonna die on the spot. You can also do this with ocean spaces as well, making Lysander a pretty useful unit at sea, even though he can't swim. Just gotta make sure no one else knocks him into the water. But there aren't too many units that can do stuff like that in the first place, so Lysander's probably gonna be pretty safe. Outside of that, if you wanna see the details on Lysander's stats, or you want to look at the little lore blurb, you can check that out at the website, www.circleofrealms.com. Otherwise, that wraps up our discussion of the units that come out of the Ursine cellar. So after this, we're gonna be looking at the next building for the Kingdom player. I might post another YouTube short so you can see what that building looks like and take a guess at what it makes and what it does. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you can check that out. And of course, if you want to go the extra mile and support this project, you can check out the Patreon that is linked in the description below. Otherwise, my friends, be happy, be healthy, be well, and I'll see you next time here in the Circle of Realms.